Welcome back, guys. Now, whilst the cylinder head is away from machining work, I have been dying to put a slightly hotter cam in our 998 Mini to make the most of the cylinder head modifications. But there's a couple of things that have been holding me back. Firstly, the engine is in the car and it is staying in the car. Secondly, uprated camshafts on the internet seem to be quite expensive. And thirdly, if you want to make the most of an uprated camshaft, you need to get the timing spot on, which generally takes you down the route of vernier timing gears. In today's video, we're going to be removing the camshaft from the car with the engine in situ. We're going to be replacing it with an uprated bargain basement camshaft, which should make a good amount of extra power. And we're going to be dialing in the timing perfectly without a vernier timing gear for a fraction of the cost. Let's go and take a look. So then, first things first, camshaft removal. There are two things that make this a little bit tricky with the engine in. The first is access, because the camshaft comes out to the side and the inner wing is in the way. The second are the camshaft followers, which sit on top of the lobes of the cam and they stop you from pulling the camshaft out. But we have a solution for both of those. First of all, the access. On the inner wing, I've cut two of the bars, which are non-structural, at the bottom, and I've bent them up out of the way. And once the job is done, I'll bend them back down and I'll either weld them back on or put little plates on so they're back where they were before. And that'll sit behind the radiator, you'll never see it. The second is the camshaft follower issue. Now, I've seen people on the internet do this with 1275s with no tappet chest covers. I wouldn't recommend it. There's a video of someone sticking magnets on bits of stick and pulling the followers up and putting pegs on them. If one of those magnets snap off, you're in a whole world of pain. But with the 998, we've got tappet chest removal options. On the back of the engine, you've got the two tappet chest covers. Take the two bolts out, remove the tappet chest covers, and then you can reach in with a magnetic pen after you've taken your head off and your push rods and all that. And then you can just pull the followers up, out the back of the engine and off the job. Then you can remove your distributor drive with a nice long bolt, which is pretty straightforward, and your fuel pump at the back if you've got one. And then after you've removed all your timing gear, your camshaft will just remove like this. Now, I'm going to start stripping this down, which has already been apart multiple times. But what I will say is undoing this crank nut with this lower radiator engine support bracket in was nigh on impossible to get the socket in. So as you can see, whilst this was off the job, I got a little rotary burr and I cut some of it away so that now the 1.5/16" socket will fit on there, which makes life a lot easier, whereas before this would not go on. So if you're going to go this far with it, it's worth going a little bit further, taking this off. I had to take it off for an engine mount because mine was in two pieces. Told you, literally two pieces. But this will make your life a lot easier. You may need tools to undo yours, but mine was done yesterday. So it's a lot easier. Right, now this is not a how-to removal video, but imagine if everything come apart this easily. We're not worrying about engine position, by the way, because we're going to be setting that all up later on. This is not going to be a how to set your timing video because it's been done to death. But it's also worth noting, this is an uprated chain from MED, a US chain. Right, camshaft removal. Now that everything's out of the way, it's just a case of pulling and being very careful. A little bit of tweaking. It's got stuck. There you go. Okay. Again, this would be a hell of a lot easier with an engine that was on its side on an engine stand. But I don't want that luxury. I want to do it this way. Because as you can see, it's very possible. And for those of you that go, bloody hell, that looks nice and clean, it's because it's the brand new one, because I've had it in and out a few times for timing purposes, which we'll talk about in a minute. Now then, that's your camshaft removal. And before we play around with the timing side of things, let's talk about timing chains. Because I spoke to MED on the phone, and I was going off the theory that my old 35-year-old chain had done its stretching and it wasn't going to stretch anymore, and I'm just going to chuck it back in and time it all up and we're good to go. And they said, do not do it. That chain can still carry on stretching and it can potentially snap, which will cause you a load of problems. You can get an uprated chain called a US chain for about 24 quid. It won't stretch. And I thought, well, that's brilliant, because I can set my timing up and it won't go out of time, because with a brand new cheapy chain or an older chain, you'll set it up bang on the money, and then over a period of miles, that timing chain will stretch, which will affect the relationship between crank and cam and in time timing. I mean, stretch, look at the difference in length. All right, I'm joking. I cannot see any discernible difference at all. But this is uprated, which makes me feel good about myself, and this is old, so it can go in the bin. Happy days. Right, timing wise, like I said earlier, I'm not going to do a how to time your mini camshaft video because it's been done to death. The videos are always long, they're boring. But what I will do as I go through the process is I'll give you a few little things that I've found useful when I'm dialing it in with the engine in the car. Little bits and bobs, tips and tricks, if you will, if you're foolish enough to do it this way like I have been. So I'm going to get all the faces cleaned up, and hopefully, because I've already timed this in a few times, this will be going in back in for the last time. So I'm going to cover it in camshaft lube. You'll notice that it was dry when I had it in and out those few times. All I've done is lubricate what I need to, the bearings and the lobe that I've been testing on number 2. So yeah, let's get that chucked in and get it timed up. Oh, how am I timing it up on a budget? Great question. I am using an offset Woodruff key. Now, like I said, I've timed this in a couple of times. This performance camshaft, which we will talk about at the end, the bargain basement camshaft, I cannot get over the price of it. And hopefully it should do the absolute business for us and make some good power. I timed it in at the beginning, and at full lift on number 2 valve, which is number 1 inlet valve, I was getting that full lift at 104 degrees of crankshaft rotation after top dead center. The cam calls for 107. So instead of buying a vernier timing gear and undoing the little screws and knocking the cam around, and that does sound like an easy way to do it, much easier, I bought a 3-degree offset Woodruff key from Mini Spares, because Mini Sport don't do them, so they cannot have my business. I found this also, quite a bit of Mini Sport stuff is out of stock at the moment, and they don't do certain odd little things like this, so we go with what we can go with. This is, like I say, a ground key, which is offset, which just throws your timing 3 degrees, or you can get up to 9 degrees, and you can turn it around, so you can go +9, -9, +1, -1, whatever you need to do to achieve the perfect timing. So I'm going to pop this in and, like I say, give you a few little tips and tricks along the way, and this should be going in for the last time, all going well. Now, my 2 little tips for turning the engine over and making this job a lot easier is jack the car up, put the car in gear, and then you can turn the wheel, which turns the engine. Now, this is a hell of a lot easier with the timing gear disconnected. The more things you connect, the more fiddly and tricky it's going to get. But what I do is, when I'm getting up towards, for example, I'm setting TDC. Now, when you're turning the wheel, it can be very tricky to be deadly accurate. And at this point, what I do is I grab the trusty flat blade and I go in on the flywheel, and I can just tweak a little bit at a time, and with a little bit of practice you can literally tweak a quarter of a thousandth of an inch. So if I want to go up to the 10 there, for example, that's obviously 9 and a bit thou, 9 and a half, 9 and 3/4. And you can literally, as tiny little increments as you want, just dial it in spot on, and that'll make your life a lot easier. Let's get it all timed up. So I'm happy with that. That is exactly where we need to be. And I've had that camshaft gear on and off and cam in and out more times than I care to think about. It is a much more faffy process. It's more time consuming, it's more measuring, but at the same time it leads to the same level of accuracy. And we've done it for an offset woodruff key, which was not very much compared to the price of a dual row chain vernier or even a belt drive vernier. That would have been my preference because I do quite like the look of them. But timing is bob on. Happy days. Finally, camshaft choice. What have I chosen and why? It's a 998. It's got a few modifications on it now that the headwork has been done. I wanted something to wake the car up a little bit, but retain its road manners. Something mild, not wild. Now, I've got a table over there explaining it all in a little bit more detail, but a lot of the camshafts online, the uprated ones for the A Series Mini, are around about 300 quid. And then I stumbled upon the Mini Spares Evo 1. It was a no-brainer. Come have a look at the table. Hopefully this comes out on the video well enough. If not, I will screenshot it and put a picture up. Essentially, the stock camshaft has an inlet duration of 230 degrees and an exhaust duration of 240 degrees. The Evo 1 has 264 versus the 230 and 268 versus the 240, essentially meaning that the inlet valve is open for longer and the exhaust valve is open for longer. But interestingly, the Kent 266 has 260 degrees versus 264, so a difference of 6 degrees, and 268 versus 270, a difference of 2 degrees. So they're quite closely matched. The stock cam has an inlet lift of 263 and an exhaust lift of 249 thousandths of an inch. The Evo 1 is only 1/1000th of an inch more lift on the inlet, but there's a hell of a lot more at 289 on the exhaust. So essentially it means that the inlet lift, the amount that the valve opens, is pretty much the same, but the duration is longer. On the Kent 266, it's 262, so it's 1 thou short of stock. So it's not mega in the lift department, and the exhaust lift is 270 thou, which again is more exhaust lift than stock, but nowhere near the 289 that the Evo 1 has. So essentially, they're pretty closely matched, apart from there's a hell of a lot more exhaust valve lift, and where they're certainly not matched is the price. 280 plus on the internet for the Kent 266. The Evo 1, 104, including VAT. No brainer. So there we go. That is my camshaft choice, because on 3 of the 4 metrics in the table, it is the Kent 266, which is recommended as a mild camshaft for the 998, but it's got a hell of a lot more exhaust valve lift. And I know you're all saying, James, what does that all mean? Well, I'm not entirely sure, but at £104 versus 280 plus, if it performs, I'm in a good place. And if it doesn't, I look like a bit of a fool. But never mind. Anyway, before I go, the first part of this video was filmed in October, and it is now Christmas Eve, and I'm still waiting for the machinist, and consequently I got a little bit bored. So I've been doing a little bit of cleaning and painting. I'll show you a quick little bit. Come have a look under the bonnet. This looks a lot different to what it did 3 months ago. I've been doing a hell of a lot of painting and stripping and cleaning. The head has just been popped back on
just temporarily, just to mock up a few little bits. And this is a bracket that I've been making to try and tidy up and reroute and reconfigure heater hoses, heater valve, a few little bits, and there's still bits and bobs to make, and an uprated radiator because I drilled a hole in my old one. What a fool. All the depths of the engine have all been stripped, cleaned, painted, and yeah, when the head's back from machine shop, we'll go into what I've done in a little bit more detail.
But when is that happening? Well, that is a fantastic question. The machinist has been AWOL for months, and as much as I've busied myself with painting, stripping and cleaning, my patience is running a little bit thin. But I do have a separate machinist to call on good authority, and apparently they're extremely good. So early January I'll be picking up the phone to them, and then that head will go away to see just how much damage I've done, hopefully not irreparable. Then it'll come back and the job should come back together relatively quickly. Car should fire up, and then after a little bit more tuning, should run well. But just how well, we will find out, all in due course. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have a wonderful new year, and I'll see you in January. Stay tuned.